Buckets. Ryan, how was your week? I feel like we picked up some golf clubs today that probably would never ever ever see the daylight on tour, but maybe I could be wrong. We went to two stores on our trip. We went to Music City Golf, which is in Nashville, and we also went to Mike's Golf Shop down in Chattanooga. We got some pretty cool clubs out there. The Callaway Big Bertha Alpha that we picked up, it's from 2014. I don't know if you remember it. It's the one with like the gravity core in the middle. It's like
Yeah.
it looks like the red little dial. Um, but hidden in plain sight, there it is, like the TC serial code. So it is a tour issue club. Um, may or may not have spent some time on the tour van. I think it's just exciting to find those like little diamonds in the rough. It doesn't necessarily mean anything is special about the club, right? Like if anything, you have a better chance of getting like a hot head that's maybe non-conforming, just like off the rack at any golf store, as opposed to like something that came off the truck and it's maybe maxed out for COR or it's got hot melt in it. So yeah, I just like that we found it, to be honest with you. But like going back to what I was saying about clubs of that era that were like so uniquely different from the ones that were actually on the rack at golf stores. Like for instance, this Adams golf club that we got, it's like a spoon. It's like a Tour 13 degree, but it's like an FP 400F. Do you remember those?
Yeah, that's a cool one. That was like, so there was this era of like Adam's Insight fairway woods, and there was all these iterations that used to show up on tour, and basically they were numbered with the a fraction, and the fraction always added up to, I mean, not the fraction, but the top and the bottom of the fraction
Mm-hmm.
always added up to 100. There was like the 2080 and the
Yep.
3070 and the 4060 and so on. And basically what it meant was the first number was how often you used off the tee. So like something that would be a 4060 would be like 40% probably used
Oh.
off the tee, 60% used off the fairway. And as you moved up into those golf clubs, they actually got progressively deeper for those who would like use it off the tee more.
Wow, I had
And
no idea.
so, and they had all kinds of these things, and a lot of those clubs, one might have made their way into like production. So like the 4060 was kind of like a number of clubs that Adam released around that same time,
Yeah.
similar to just how they had the 9015 Adams XTD. So there was
Mm-hmm.
like the boxer version of it, and then there was like the standard version of the XTD driver, which was rounded.
Yeah.
That XTD Fairywood, there were square ones, and then there were like the tour rounded ones, and some of them kind of made it to retail. I felt like Adams is in this weird place where like they'd make a whole bunch, and then you might find like some in a golf store,
Yeah.
but they were never priced way over what you would have found at like the general stuff that was released all the time. Because finding information on those old, like again 4060s and 3070s and stuff like that, or 5050s, not super easy anymore. And the same goes
It's all on bombsquadgolf.com, the forums, the
yeah,
OG days.
it's into the internet ether now at
Yeah,
this point.
exactly.
But yeah, those that fairway that you found had the screw
Mm-hmm.
in the sole of it,
Yep.
and that was the precursor for
That
I think it was
BTY.
BTY, exactly, which stood for beauty,
Yeah.
right? Because
Oh,
it was this
really?
really small, compact fairway wood, and to see it in that iteration is like such a cool little time capsule of there weren't a lot of these in existence, and the one you found is in like amazing shape.
It's in incredible shape, and we got it for $30. I'm pretty sure, which is nuts.
That's incredible. Was you drew? Can you remember what shaft you had in it, or have you in it?
No, we can figure that out right now. It's not like a name brand one. It's still like a cool one. It's like it's not an Acra, but it's like that type of shaft where it's like definitely
Oh, okay.
like a player had it in their bag before. Like they were definitely a
Yeah,
gamer, but it wasn't. It's not a name brand or anything like that. But
that
it's
was
just
the difficult thing with Adams was when they eventually got bought out and then kind of were kind of unofficially dissolved by TaylorMade. Like originally, obviously they had a set kind of released a couple of years ago.
mhm,
Was because they were located in like Fort Worth versus being on the West Coast or somewhere else. A lot of those clubs, very similar to Nike, just got liquidated to like local golf
yeah,
retailers. And so there were these like local golf retailers that you could go to their online stores and find all kinds of like tour shoe clubs for like 60, 70, $80. And they were just throwing shafts in them and putting up it online. It was just, it's a funny, weird time in the golf business, especially when it comes to like Adams clubs like that.
yeah. I don't know. I think There's so many awesome people that have played Adams in the past, and I just I like the fact that like these clubs don't really exist anymore. It's kind of like why I'm so romantic about like Sonar Techs and like even Orlamar Tri-Metals. Like those clubs like don't, you know, you can only buy them used now, or you can only find them in used bins. So anytime you find one in good condition is pretty cool. And like anytime I see like an Idea Pro Gold hybrid, like that's the original hybrid, I try to pick it up if it's a good price, you know. So um,
I mean, they're hybrid. Like, it's almost like the blueprint for the modern hybrid. Still, you see
truly,
shapes that resemble that because it's you know what, you could almost say that the Adams hybrid was the Ping Answer of hybrids. There
truly,
was before the Ping Answer, every putter kind of looked different. And then you had a lot of stuff that looked like it,
yeah.
and then you have the after, right?
Hmm.
And there's still a lot of hybrids that look a lot like those Adams because it's just a shape that works and a profile that works.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wish we had picked one up. We ended up just like becoming a victim of the trend. We picked up a 7 wood, which is funny enough. We got an older 7 wood to be still like keep it a Metalwood vibe, you know. But we picked up a Callaway steelhead that was from Music City Golf as well. And I honestly feel like all the clubs that we picked up were all from the same guy because these clubs were like not hit at all. So we got a Callaway steelhead 7 wood with like a bore through firm flex or regular flex, just stock shaft. But this thing was like brand new, and I think that was also $30 too. And we hit it okay today. I feel like the shaft was fairly soft, but those steelheads are still awesome. I think there's the not the U.S. amateur, but the amateur championship that's happening overseas. There was someone in the field like still playing a steelhead, so it's like it's cool to see that there's still some guys out there that are stuck in their ways. You know, fairway woods are just like people are really particular about them, and it's hard for them to get them out of their bag. So like more often than not, you'll see the oldest club in the bag of any player is going to be the fairway wood. You know.
Yeah, and the cool thing about those steelheads was you had like the big Berthas beforehand, the Warbirds, all of those kind of clubs where you started to see this trend of like trying to create things that were more forgiving, that weren't so much in the irk of the Titleist PT, which is a
Sure.
great fun fairway wood, but not overly forgiving. And then you see this very curved leading edge on the steelhead and the
Hmm.
Warbirds, and for golfers who wanted to, and most especially with a 7 wood, be able to dig it out of the rough,
Yeah.
they were wonderful. Like it was unbelievable, and it makes me think of, I know a lot of Callaway woods now have either adapters or they have a hosel on them,
Hmm.
but that old S2H2, which stands for short, straight, hollow hosel, allows the club to actually have a lot of forgiveness built into it.
Yeah.
You know, and those steel shafts might have been a little on the softer side, but for most golfers walking into a store, like if that was your only option, I mean, it was going to offer uh, pretty darn good stability and something that, especially for steel versus graphite, a lot of consistency in that era, and something that they don't see it anymore. Like you used to be, even when I was like working in retail, like working in a golf store was like there was the steel price of the fairway with the steel shaft, and then there was the graphite shaft, which was
Yeah.
usually $20 to $35 more. So you
Yeah.
get a little extra value with those two.
Sure. Sure. Actually, there's one thing that we didn't mention about the driver, but well, it'll relate to the irons too, because we did pick up the S2H2 irons, and they do have that bore through construction. So you're gaining, well, what an old concept, maybe not so proven today, but like the idea of bore through shafts were to get more weight and more, I guess, vibration dampening through the head, right? So the toe became a little more free, but that bore through is supposed to add stability. Um, but I was going to say that our irons that we got, 3 through sand wedge, all featured that Memphis 10 true temper shaft, which is technically like a Uniflex shaft. And we thought it was so funny because I forgot to mention that in that Callaway Big Bertha Alpha, we picked up an Inventix nunchuck shaft. Do you remember that thing?
Yeah, the nunchuck. That was I mean, they're still around. You can
Yeah.
still find them, but like it was like the one flex shaft.
Hmm.
And the idea behind it was that the handle was very, very stiff. The tip of the shaft was very, very stiff, like the handles of nunchucks. But the middle of the shaft was designed to be super soft. Probably one of the most famous players who used that was Johnny Vegas. Johnny
Yep.
Vegas used it in a driver, and he's a big, strong player. It kind of required a big strong player to kind of use it, just because even though exactly you gotta flex on that, because it wasn't a, I mean, it was designed to be flexible in the middle, but overall it was still an over 80-gram driver shaft, and
Yeah.
that's a lot for most golfers
I
to
want to say
handle.
Johnny Vegas may have played it in more than one club. I think he played driver and 3-wood in it. He also won with it, I'm pretty sure, which is crazy.
Yep. Yeah, he was one of the there was multiple users on tour that used it, but I think of all of them that did it, Johnny Vegas was by far the most popular.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny though. We only noticed halfway through our like testing the clubs that we realized we bought pretty much a one flex shaft set outside of the two fairway woods we got, you know. So um, what else did we get? So our iron set went down to sand wedge, so we only needed to really pick up one wedge. We were running out of money, so we scooped this Voki wedge. It was the pre spin milled wedge, which I don't know if it really had like a proper name for it. It was just like the Voki oil can.
Was it the oil can one, or was it the 200 series? Was it a 200
It's
series
not a
one?
200 series. It's between 200 and spin milled. So it was the one year that they didn't make the spin milled wedges or like the spin milled score lines on the grooves. But it is oil can,
Got it.
and it's got 4 degrees of bounce on it, which it was like kind of meant to be an all around wedge. But we hit it off of it did just that. You know, we hit it off some tight lies today, um, and we swept one under and got up and down twice with it today. So it's a pretty good pickup. I just think it's a little long, so we might need to get it cut down a bit. But yeah, Voki still makes like just the widest selection of bounces, and for those that might not know, I mean, like buying the right bounce is just as important as getting the right loft, you know?
Yeah, and it's super helpful when like you talk about conditions, right? I mean, you probably don't want to be, if you're a steep player and you play in some soft conditions, it might not be the best option for you. But if you play in some firmer conditions, or you're not, and you're really going to be using it to open the face a lot, that lower bounce angle actually is probably more bounce effectively when you start opening up the face naturally. So it really gives you that option of versatility to hit those really fun like high shots where again you're just trying to get it close if you happen to put yourself in a little danger.
Do you think bounce is one of the more like misunderstood things in golf? Like if you're just someone looking to pick up a wedge and they're going into a golf store, like they're obviously just looking at the loft number, right? 60, 56, 52. Um, what are like some misconceptions do you feel about like shopping for the right kind of bounce?
Yeah, I think when it comes to wedges, most golfers tend to think that the best players in the world use low bounce all the time. And obviously, the one you picked up today is low bounce. But in reality, higher bounce for most golfers is more forgiving.
Hmm.
And that's where you pair something that has a little bit more bounce with some versatility, like you see the grinds on the heel and toe, means it's not really going to dig a lot, but you still have the opportunity to open up the face, get that leading edge a little lower, and help hit those shots where, if you are going to open it, you're not going to scull it. You're going to help get the club underneath the ball. But when you hit a full swing shot, you have all that bounce in kind of the places where you really need it.
Hmm.
And that's where that combination of bounce, that's where the combination of bounce and grind are so important
Yeah.
when it comes to selecting wedges. And in your case, if you've got a set that matches all the way down to your sand wedge, once you get down to that lob wedge, you're probably looking for something that is lower bounce, because everything else in the set is probably going to tend from a forgiveness standpoint to be a little higher. So it's okay to have something that's lower if you're just using it in a 60.
Yeah. Yeah, we went down to a sand wedge. We hit one shot out of the bunker with the sand wedge today, and it was just like, I don't know, we were in a part of the bunker that had a ton of sand in it, and we could have actually used more bounce. But the set makeup with the sand wedge being from that set was actually like, I don't know, the S2H2 surprised me by like how thin the top lines were and how thin the soles were. Even though there was a decent amount of offset, they still played great, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the hidden features of a lot of older designs is, even if they were, especially with that iron set, you have more mass removed from the hosel, so they're able to lower the center of gravity on those irons. And to help lower the center of gravity, they also make the, like you're to your point, longer heel toe.
mhm.
So they're a little bit longer. They might look thin from the top, but once you actually kind of flip them over, they're pretty darn forgiving golf club for the time period when you compare it to like a forged blade or something that's got a longer hosel with a much higher center of gravity. Higher center of gravity is naturally going to want to launch the golf ball lower.
Yeah.
So for golfers who are looking for forgiveness but don't want to go to something that would have been overly chunky, this was kind of that iron where you had that smaller look, but you had a lot of forgiveness built in because of, at the time, they were optimizing as much technology as they could to get as much performance out of those golf clubs with what they had available.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you said the Memphis 10 shafts were in those, like
Yeah.
the Uniflex.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Do you want to
awesome.
know where? Do you know where Memphis 10 comes from? I feel like I'm playing trivia now, but I feel like you probably know the answer to this.
I actually don't. I was counting the steps in the shaft, thinking that it was 10 steps in the shaft, but I don't know the answer. So please enlighten us.
So all of those shafts, all those old Memphis 10 shafts were made by True Temper.
Yep.
And True Temper headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee. So Memphis 10 is just a nut. That was like, what are we going to name this golf shaft? And that's actually where Memphis 10 comes from.
No kidding.
It has nothing to do with 10, the number 10, steps in the shaft, anything. It's actually the location of True Temper's headquarters.
Huh. I would have never thought. I mean, like, I knew True Temper was like an American company. But yeah, I was like out there trying to figure it out. I was counting the steps. I think there's 12 steps on every shaft. But yeah, that just leads us to the putter, which is the big mystery. We don't know who made it, where it's from. There has to be like 100-year-old lead tape caked onto it. But it feels like it could be of the late 80s, early 90s. It is, I think, beryllium copper.
Okay.
It does look like some of the ping putters that I've gotten in the past, but the only other thing about it is that it's completely hollowed out, like it's a hollow body, and it's almost like in the shape of a B. So it's got like the sight line and like the aim where you would line the ball up is like that where that B kind of points in back at the face. Comes with a really unique sound. It's not quite a ping. It's more of a dink, if anything. So you got any ideas of like what this is?
This could be one of the weirdest putters I've ever seen. It's not very often that I get to say that I've never seen that before when it comes to golf equipment, and I've never seen that before. I think the biggest thing would be the fact that, so we talk about the material, probably some sort of, like, again, to your point, beryllium copper or manganese bronze or something like that. And it was of this era, late, to your point, like maybe stretched into the 90s, could probably be like 80s, even potentially into the 70s.
Sure.
Because Ping had basically built this entire reputation on, hey, you could be, Karsten Solheim was this inspirational person to a lot of people because it was like, I started building putters out of my garage and I ended up having this like really cool, which is now obviously a globally recognized golf brand. And I think it inspired a lot of people to just try making putters.
Yeah.
And again, I've never seen anything like this. It brings perimeter weighting to like a whole other level because it is hollow in the middle. The face is very thin. But if you look at those heel and toe sections, although there's lead tape caked all over this thing, there's a lot of mass pulled away from the face and out on the heel and toe. And to be able to do that, again, how they would have probably cast that thing to be hollow in the middle is pretty unique. I can only imagine the sound that it produces when you do hit it. It's probably a little high pitched tingy. But to see that and to find something like that is, I can only imagine the person or the people who have used it in the past, the person who came up with it probably in their garage and drew it on some sort of napkin. And somehow, after all of this, it ended up in your hands playing golf with it. So I wish I had more information. We could probably write a whole big fan fiction story of the origin of this putter.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
But it's either way, it's a fun piece.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we did pretty well. I like all together considering there's like a mix of tour shoe stuff and a mix of like what the hell is this in the bag? Like I'm calling it an A minus. Like I think value wise, we definitely could turn around and like flip those tour shoe clubs for more money. Not that that's what we're gonna do, but it all played great. It's a very cohesive bag, and I think we kind of hit it out of the park.
Yeah, I think that driver is a big one. I think like to find a whole set of irons going from like long iron to like down to the sand wedge, that's pretty cool. Like find. fairway woods definitely, like that Adams, again, from such an era that like we don't really have anymore. And then to your point, the driver, like I remember talking to a Callaway engineer, and the idea for jailbreak and where they created that frame behind the club
The
face.
two uprights, yeah.
Yeah, so like the ability to like attach the top to the bottom of the club head to help with energy transfer and stabilizing the head originally derived from that club because of the gravity core, the inside of that little chamber where the thing goes in and flips up and down, so you get high center of gravity, low center of gravity. That they realized, hey, I think we got something here by attaching the top and the bottom to hold that little core. And it's kind of fun to see technology evolve from what that was there. You see steelhead fairwoods to now we've got there's AI used in drivers. They didn't usually use it that back then.
Yeah, yeah, definitely not. Yeah, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for chiming in. I feel like this has got to be a recurring thing. I feel like we speak the same language. It's cool to discuss golf clubs on this level of nerdism, and you know, you can only do that with so many people.
Well, I have to have you on the Gear Smart podcast one time, and we'll get real deep on this stuff.
I would love that. Awesome. Thanks so much for the time.
No worries. Thank you.
All right.